Hello, and welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast. Hey, Heather, it seems like you're on the right side today.
I am. I'm on the right side. It's so funny that people notice that every time. It's so good. It's
Yeah,
so it's
it's
no
still
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
no. You go.
It's just so interesting how small changes are so noticeable to
Mm.
people and a little bit frustrating. Like we hear frustration from people when we're on the wrong side. And you know, I just think about that and I kind of giggle and actually I have to say when we are and just so everybody knows out there, we have to switch it when we jump on, so it automatically loads us one way and then
Mm.
we switch it to the other way to be consistent for both ourselves and for all of you guys. But it begs the question, how else are we wanting things to stay the same when we're saying that we want something completely different? And this is a real problem. We hold on to things to stay exactly how they are, and then we don't accept the changes, even as small
Yeah.
as which side of the screen we're on.
I know it's funny. It's actually funny. And listen, we love the comments, we love the support, we love when people say, "Hey, why are things different?" Like it's interesting because the one thing we talk about is switching things up every once in a while, right? Like switching things up to create new neural pathways in your brain so you can, expand and grow that. And, just a little thing. You're right. We're always expecting to see the same thing over and over, right? And that's
Yes.
that's great because it's great for consistency, but it's also dangerous because you're not seeing other perspectives and other ways of seeing things,
100%. And
right?
John, one of the tactics that I used to do when I would do interviews is I would actually, and if it was an internal interview, if I had to do it in my office, which I try to avoid a lot, because just the somebody
The
walking
power
into
space.
a power person's office is very, very difficult. It makes them even more nervous. But if that was the case, I would actually have them sit in my seat. I mean, like, you're going to sit in this
Mm.
seat today, and that would completely change their answers, their perspective. They would actually sit in it and sort of like move differently, like just to feel it. And I'd sort of laugh at them and like, yeah, enjoy that seat because you're in the position today. You're going to be answering some amazing questions and we're going to get to know you. And it would just set the tone completely differently. And so if you're trying on a new identity, if you're trying on a different persona, then sit in that seat and say, okay, I am this person. And it's amazing how quickly your
Mm.
body and your brain connect those neural pathways to be that person. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, right. And it's something so subtle and so different, right? And this is for all the leaders that are listening. And if you're going through the interview process now, switch it up, right? So your normal seat that you would use in an interview room, and I know when I was doing interviews inside of rooms, there'd always be that one seat that I would always sit in. And you're right. The one thing you do is like, I saw it and I felt it when somebody sat what I would call my seat, like you're sitting in my seat. Should I move? No,
Hmm.
no, it's all right. You just stay there. And so it threw me off. So it's good to be in a variety of different situations and a variety of different settings. Like even if you just mix up the dinner table sets, like mix
Ooh,
up where
yes.
I know. Like we have designated seating in my house, right? Everybody has their seats. And I'm like, okay, let's switch it up. And everybody's like, no, we're not doing that. I'm like, why not? Because we're
Listen,
so set in our
the
ways, right?
the things that we've anchored into places in our homes, and you say the seat at the table. So in my parents' kitchen, it was really small and there was four of us. And in order for my sister to sit in her seat, the table had to get pulled away from the wall, and then nobody could go
Mm.
past and nobody could get to the fridge. And if somebody tried to squeeze by, then she would get squished into the wall. And just imagine what that makes that person feel like. And nobody would ever sit in that seat. She always had to take that seat, and she was the little one, so she had to take that seat. But my seat was in the corner, and so I was stuck in the corner. So that movie, nobody puts baby in a corner. That actually reminds me every time it's said
Mm.
of the seat that I was in, and I didn't like my seat either. It was because I was squished in the corner. And I wonder, as we're talking about this, if I've anchored that, and I got to do some releases for it, sitting in the corner. and now I buy places open concept. Like you can see, this is my whole house. Like I don't want to be confined in a corner. Huh, there
There's
we go.
no corners.
There's
I
Heather
love it.
figuring her life out right in front of everyone on audience. There it is. All right. Journal that today.
It's the reason why you have an open concept house, because you don't want to be cornered in, right? You don't want to be blocked into a certain space. Oh man. It's funny because we make these decisions, we do these things, not really knowing why we do them, right? And it's either to
100%.
combat something that's happened in the past or to design the way we want our futures to be, right? And the one thing we're always talking about is your future self, right? Your future self. What is your future self? Your future self is whatever it is you want it to be. And you get to design that. Do you want to live in an open concept house? Do you want to live in the corner? And what's interesting is I visited when I was back in Portugal in January. One of the things I realized was a lot of the houses were confined, broken up into quadrants, right? Like everything was, you have your kitchen blocked off, 2 doors in and out of the kitchen. You had your living room, 2 doors, and every room was closed off. I'm like, it felt so confining. Now that you say it,
that's the roles. Back then when those houses were built, the roles of the household were also confined. We create environments that match who we are as an identity and who we are as a society, and that's what becomes the norm. And it's quite unbelievable when you unpack this and you're like, wow, I'm making decisions because of something from my past, and not, I remember being a child thinking, oh, I can't wait till I can grow up and I can make my own decisions and I can, be independent. And I remember having those thoughts. And now I'm an adult and I'm like, who's the adult in the room? Like, because sometimes my childhood is making those decisions. My past is influencing my future. And sometimes it's in a really fun, playful way. And sometimes it's in a confined space, don't want to sit in a corner kind of way. And both are okay once you are aware that they're driving some of your current conditions, expectations, thoughts, patterns, and actions. Oh, wow, that's a whole mouthful.
Yeah. No, it's kind of crazy what we do to ourselves, not even knowing that we do it to ourselves. So there's a couple of, there's one particular topic I want to kind of cover today. And it's one that kind of leads to what we discussed on Monday, which was really around, how are we positioning ourselves? So how are we putting ourselves out into the world, right? What is the one thing that we need to do to be a little bit more consistent? What action do we need to take, right? Because we talked about on Monday, doing one thing every day for the next 5 days. Let's be consistent with a particular action, with a particular activity, so we can grow into that space. And, this morning, listen, my morning started at 4:30 today. I don't know why, but there was an energy. There was an energy. I'm like, okay, I got to get this energy out. I did some stuff and I went for a run. I got my 5K run in already. It's not even 8 o'clock. It's so cool. Okay, good. Run down.
Woo, celebrate.
Yeah, celebrate. But, I ended up having a conversation with a gentleman in Italy that I've been working with. And we talked about, people not putting themselves out there, not voicing their opinions, essentially not voicing their opinions, but not having their say. And what was interesting is he talked about how, people have the fear of being judged. People have the fear of being ridiculed. People have the feeling of not being appreciated. It's like, who are you to voice your opinion out into the world? And I looked at him and I'm like, oh, that's so interesting, because I know at one point in my journey, I was like that. I wouldn't want to voice my opinion. It's part of the reason why people don't put comments in things like our podcast, right? We know people are listening. We know people are paying attention, because how many times have you been pulled aside and say, hey, Heather, I loved what you talked about on the podcast. I'm like, well, why aren't you commenting?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And just for everyone out there, we don't know that you're listening, who is listening, unless you comment, and then we know who's out there. So if you're there, say good morning to us, because we love that.
Yeah. So what it came down to was, so he was talking about a buddy who doesn't comment on any of his posts, who does any of that stuff. And I said, what he's really feeling is, so if you are the type of person that would judge or ridicule or make fun of other people, that's how you're going to see yourself.
Mm.
right? So what you end up seeing in others is really a projection of who you are, right? And one of the things I know
Mm.
we both needed to get over when we started doing this thing a year ago, and actually, our very first coffee chat was a year ago, August 15, 2022.
Wow.
We just decided we were going to put our message out there into the world, right? And it didn't matter if people didn't like our message. It
Nope.
didn't matter to us because we knew that we had something that we wanted to share in terms of value.
Well, and we had a
And
goal, which
that,
was to
mm.
positively impact one person. And because there's two of us, we're already meeting our goal because we're impacting each other. So we made it super simple, super achievable, and something that was for us, but to share for the world. So that's a
Yeah,
formula for success.
no,
Now, our
100%.
goal is
And
bigger now, but it wasn't at the beginning.
yeah, and the other piece of it, that we're kind of playing off what we talked about on Monday was just being consistent,
Yes.
right? It started with one video, two video, and then it's like, okay, a weekly video, and then it's like, oh, 3 times a week we're doing this. It was just the consistency, right? And that actually helps you break through a lot of different things. I don't know about you, but I almost want to like dissect what's happened over the last year because we've broken
Mm.
out of, and if we were to go back and listen to, and I will actually share the link to the very first coffee chat that we had, it's gotten us out of thinking about, you know, what are people thinking about us, right?
Mm.
It's not that we don't care. We do care. Like
Oh,
we care that
yes.
we make sure that we put a message that's valuable, that's giving you insight, that's really contributing to your life in a really positive way. That's our mission every time we get together. And that's one of the things that we talked about. And that's part of the reason why we took our mastermind calls and made them into podcasts, because that was our way of giving back to the world, right?
That's right.
So it helped us let go of those thoughts of, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? The truth is, who cares what people think and say? 80 to 90% of people think, hey, I love what you're doing. It's a very positive thing. And there might be one or two people that are like, I don't know, I don't agree. Okay, that's fine. But why focus on like the 5 or 10%? Focus
Yeah.
on the 80 or 90% of people that you're having impact on. And we just talked about what the keys to that is, right? Just take your message, put it out there. Don't make it about you. It's what we talked about in our masterclass as well, right?
Yes.
It's not about you. It's always about the people that are listening to your message. It's about you offering and giving value to the world.
Well, and John,
So,
what's
yeah.
really been surprising, well, not surprising to me, but it's something to a good talking point is some of the episodes that have gotten either the most views or the most comments were just us being vulnerable and ourselves
Mhm.
and sharing that it's not all roses and butterflies that are and rainbows and butterflies all the time. Sometimes we're having a tough day, or sometimes we're, having to regenerate ourselves. And, some of the actions, the really simple actions, a few days ago, I was talking about going up to the beach and just collecting sticks and making some art out of them. And, I got a couple comments back on how that was really helpful. And people went and did the same activity. And it's like, wow, I had no idea talking about collecting sticks would have an impact. I'm thinking, oh, where's the big, big idea? Guys, the big, big idea is to be authentically you. That's the
Mm.
big, big idea.
Yeah, no, I love that. And Michael, thank you for listen. We missed you too, Michael. It's been a while. It's great to see you sitting on your deck listening to us first thing in the morning. Listen, what a way to start the morning. But
Yes.
yeah, it's. I talked. Actually, I did a TikTok on this on Monday where I said, be unapologetically you. Right? We talked about
Yes.
getting kicked under the table, and just like you talked about how you were in that corner at your dinner table, that is, things that lock us into a certain way of being, right? And we have to realize that this is what's happening so we can actually overcome it. Because if we don't
Mhm.
actually have that awareness, and this is part of what we do through this process too, is to raise awareness in everybody. Because if you just take one thing and you learn and you implement and you take action on it, that's where things really start to shift. Listen, actually I did a video this morning about this where I talked, man, I've already done a lot. It's like 8:15 already. I still got a whole day ahead of me. It's awesome. But I talked about, it's great to be a consumer of knowledge. It's great to be like, we're both like, I think we're both, personal development junkies. Like we pick up books, we listen to podcasts, we're always learning. But one of the things that we also do, and this is the thing that I've seen that's been successful, is just taking one thing and implementing it.
Yes, yes. If
Right.
you do nothing and you consume, you're just feeding that automatic negative thought that you're not good enough, that, oh, someone else already came up with that message. And in fact, just do something about it. And John, I'm not surprised that you're super active. You've gotten like this whole list of things. You woke up at 4:30 because when you change one thing, everything around you changes. And you started your shred challenge this week. So you're
Yeah.
day 3, and you already changed. You didn't aim to be waking up at 4:30 a.m., but you changed some things in your diet, you changed some things in your activity level, and guess what? Your energy and your body is reacting to that. So when you do one small tiny change, everything around you also changes. And back to what you said, be unapologetically you, and announce to everyone, I am making a change and I'd love your support. And whatever that change is, it might be sitting on the deck and spending a whole 20 minutes just listening to the hummingbirds and listening to this podcast. That's a great gift to yourself, Michael.
Yeah, no, I love it. Listen, I wish we should do a podcast from a deck on, like I'm already visualizing us, doing a podcast from a
We'll go
deck
up to we'll go
somewhere
up to
on
Michael's.
Sunset.
We'll go up to
Yeah, we'll
Michael's.
go up to Michael, and then we'll bring him in. We'll have him as a guest,
Exactly.
for our podcast. But what was great, and I know one of the things that we haven't really shared yet, but what is coming is we are going to be hosting a live event. We're hosting a speaker series in October, where we're going to talk and bringing people's say yes stories together, right? We're talking about the evolution. Come to the cottage. Okay, great. Just send us your address and we'll be there. So I was sharing this idea because Heather, I think I've told you, but I'm going to be going to Portugal for 2 weeks in September. And the gentleman that I was talking to, he's like, "Oh, you're doing your event in Lisbon." I'm like, "Ooh, I like that." Right. So he's already got a vision of us doing a speaker event in Lisbon, Portugal. I'm gonna let
Wow.
that sit with you, Heather.
I love it.
I love it. I'm like, why not? Like, why can't we? Right. So it's when you share, and just kind of building on what you were talking about, when you have that vision for yourself in terms of what it is you want to do, and you share it with others, people end up helping you in the process. And that's what I love about, we're talking about an event here, but why can't we why not do a world tour, right? We'll go to like Italy, we'll go to Mongolia, we'll go to Portugal, like we'll go to Peru, do it for Machu Picchu. There's so many options in terms of what we can do just when you share the vision with people, right?
That's right. And
Share your
the
goal.
Say Yes movement, right? The reason for this is we talk about the things that are getting in the way of you saying yes to being unapologetically you, and saying yes to having your best life and being the best version of yourself. And the answer is always the same. It's you that's in the way. But of course, it's, conditioning, it's some belief systems, and we just want you to have the best life, and we want to have the best life with you. So we want you to be unapologetically you, which means doing something different that is in the name of what you want to do, what you're passionate about, what you're excited about, and connecting with your inner self with love.
Ooh, that's deep. I like that. Connecting with your inner self with love. Yeah. No, wow. That is like, I feel like it's a mic drop moment. No, but it's true. You do. There's a part where you do need to connect with you. I think we've walked away from that. Like we've walked away from the best parts of ourselves because growing up, we've been conditioned to sit in the corner, getting kicked under the table. And, we've been silenced. And I don't know about you, but I feel like we're at that moment in our lives where we don't need to be silent anymore.
No.
Now it's time to like speak up, right? Now is the time to be unapologetically you. I feel like that's the theme for today. But it's also, just building up on what we talked about on Monday, what's that one consistent action that you've been taking this week towards the one thing that you want? Does it mean getting up, doing some exercise? Does it mean journaling? Does it mean connecting with friends that pop into your head? I love that one personally. Actually, there's a few people that have popped into my head. I know I need to message today. But what's that one thing that you need to do for you and for them? right? Because it's not, just going back to what we talked about in our masterclass, it's not about you, right? If you're going to create
Right,
impact,
yeah.
if you're going to create the life that you want, it's really about others, right? And
Well,
about
and there are
service.
people in your life, to back to your point, they pop into your head and reach out to them. There are people in your life that have shown up unapologetically, and send them a note. So, like, that's the one thing that you can do today. You can think about those people. They've just popped into your head as we're talking about it, and just send them a video message, send them a note. In fact, send them a video message. I love getting video messages. And if you're feeling, oh, I have that, Heather, that makes me nervous, great. That's exactly why you should do it, because you want to be unapologetically, not worry about, is your hair done? Do you look good? What you're wearing? Just make a video and just send it their way. And they're so, it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that, because I sent a video birthday message to somebody today, and you're right. Like, it doesn't need to be rehearsed. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be authentically you. Okay, so we're going to leave it there because we're already at 20 after. I can't believe how quickly these things go.
Ooh.
But we'll be back on Friday. We'll be sharing a little bit more details about our upcoming speaker event. And remember, just send a message to somebody that you feel that pops, like the first person to pop into your head, send them a message because they need to hear from you. All right, so when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody.